Civilization 7 has just released, and with it are a whole bunch of new world wonders that you're going to be able to build throughout your empire. In today's video, we look at the Age of Antiquity, and the first 20 world wonders that you're going to be able to build. We work out which ones are the best, which ones are the worst, and we put them on a tier list, so that we're able to keep track in relation to the other world wonders. Now, in today's game here, we've managed to build every single world wonder, all 20 of them, in our empire. It wasn't easy, because some of these world wonders have got very specific requirements. As an example, we've got Mundo Perdido, which is required to be placed on tropical, so it meant that we had to come all the way out here and settle up towards this position. This is a consideration that we make whenever we're building a world wonder, but there's also some other considerations as well. There are three primary considerations that we're looking at when we're assessing the value of a world wonder, which is going to be the focus of today's video, and we'll start off with the Colossus. The first component is going to be the base yield. The base yield of the world wonder is the amount of resources it's actually giving you. So here we've got 3 gold, which is decent. It's not too bad. It's also got a bonus ability that provides +3 resource capacity in the settlement. So this is quite handy in the event that you are looking to grab a whole bunch of resources and look to try and head towards that legacy path. So that can be good. And then it's also got an economic attribute point, which is the third component. So those are going to be our 3 components that we're looking at here. The economic attribute point can be assigned to your leader in the attribute tree, and each world wonder is different. Some of them provide an economic, or some of them provide a leader attribute point, some of them don't provide a leader attribute point. So these are all considerations that we'll be looking to assess in today's video. So we've already talked a little bit about the Colossus. We'll come back to him and, or we'll come back to it rather. I'm not sure if it might be a she, actually. We'll come back to her a little bit later on in the video, because I think it's probably best that we do this alphabetical. We can actually check the list here. So we're going to start off with the Angkor Wat. If I remember correctly, the Angkor Wat is over here, which is probably a little bit more of an advanced world wonder to start off with. So look, instead what we're going to do is we're going to flip it around. We'll do it reverse alphabetical order. We'll start off with the Weiyang Palace. So the Weiyang Palace is an interesting world wonder because there's only one component to it. It's +6 influence, which is actually incredibly powerful. And the reason why this is so powerful is because there's nothing specific about it. There's no requirement that you have to have rivers. There's no requirement that that it must be placed on coast and that it only applies to coastal tiles. No matter the civilization, no matter the leader, this world wonder is always going to give you value. Now, there are circumstances where it is less valuable. Say, as an example, if you've gone into your pantheons, so let's just type in, I think it's City Patron Goddess, +3 influence on the altar. If you've managed to pick up this pantheon early on and you've got a whole bunch of altars throughout your empire, then this loses value. But in general, this is going to be an incredibly valuable world wonder, just because of the fact that influence is hard to come by. It's not easy to get. So +6 of it early on is going to be amazing. It's going to allow you to avoid wars, because if anyone tries to declare or to denounce you, you're going to be able to cancel that out. It's going to allow you to pick up city-states if you need to a little bit further on in the game. And most importantly, it is an ageless building, which means it's going to be providing you that influence throughout the entire course of the game. You're going to be able to use that influence constantly to power up all the different components of interactions that you have throughout the game. So because of that, I think that there is no other place for the Weiyang Palace than to simply go up onto the S tier spot. We're going to start off this list strong. And look, we start off at strong. I was thinking we're going to do it in alphabetical order, then we'll do it reverse alphabetical order. I think we're just gonna go any way we're feeling. We started off strong. Let's move on to the next component, which is going to be the weak ones, or at least this is the world wonder that people think is very, very weak. And look, I'll be honest with you, I kind of agree with them. Now, I'm going to caveat this by saying, whenever we're assessing a world wonder, we're assessing it on the basis of every civ and every leader, not on niche little circumstances. So I will tell you right now, there is a secret strategy that you can do with the Great Stele, which I think actually might be broken. I'm not going to reveal what it is right now, just simply because it's going to be coming up in a video shortly, and I don't want to spoil it for you guys. I want you to see it for yourself in action, and I want you to be the judge on whether it's actually good. But unfortunately, it's only for one civ, and it's only for one leader, and it's a very, very specific combo that makes this actually work. Other than that, this is a bit of a weird world wonder. It gives you 200 gold when you construct a wonder in the settlement, including this one. So you build this one, you get 200, and that's it. Now, it's a flat bonus. One of the interesting things is that it doesn't scale, or at least from what I'm aware, it doesn't scale with the speed of the game. So if you're building this in a marathon game, you're still only going to be getting 200 gold. If you're playing online speed, you're going to get 200 gold. So that's going to make it a lot stronger in online than it is going to be in marathon. But further to that, it doesn't scale throughout the ages. It is technically ageless, but it doesn't give you more gold in the later ages. So just because your yields are going to be a lot higher in those subsequent ages, so it loses value very quickly. So realistically, I don't think this World Wonder has a whole lot of value, just simply because it's a lot of production in the early game. If we think about where we unlock this World Wonder, which is something that we didn't talk about the Weiyang Palace yet, but if we can come back to it, but if we talk about where we unlock this, it's at writing, which is very early on, and it's at this stage of the game where typically you're going to be wanting to get out your library, you're going to be wanting to try and get out your settlers. So it's definitely a wonder that's going to be a little bit more focused around other wonders, because it, as you can see, it's every single wonder that you construct. But unfortunately, because of that, it's a very, very niche. I wouldn't advise it for absolutely any single leader other than the one that I'm sure you can probably imagine who it's going to be. But unfortunately for the great Stele, it is not a great steal, and it's going to have to go in the D tier today. We still love it. We still think it's amazing, and we move on to the next World Wonder. So we might just do this whole little cluster right here. We've got a whole bunch of World Wonders in here. So the next one is going to be a bit of a strange one. Okay, the Gate of All Nations. So the Gate of All Nations is unlocked through the culture tree. It's down here, and it provides +2 support on all wars. And this is quite a curious bonus, because the way that war support works is whenever you declare war on somebody, let's say I declare war right now over on Catherine over here, that there's going to be a component of war that is through our war weariness, essentially. So we would automatically... Sorry, let me start again. Okay, there are points that you get depending on a number of different factors as to how you declared that war and the bonuses that your civilization has, and that's what war support is all about. And those bonuses translate into a direct combat strength boost or a direct combat strength reduction, and that can be incredibly significant through wars. Now, what's particularly special about the Gate of All Nations is not that it provides +2 support on all wars. It's that it provides it irrespective of where your war support is at. And what that means is that you could have a +6 or a +7 war support. And keep in mind that war support gets more expensive as you spend it. So if we were to declare war on Xerxes right now, so we'll open our war details, and we are sitting at +3 already because we've got the Gate of All Nations. But we can go ahead and spend our influence to push that war support up. And as we do that, that's going to further increase the strength of our units. Now, what's so special is with the Gate of All Nations is that it is it's essentially free war support on top of the ones that you've already got. So the more war support that you've got, the more expensive it's going to be. So the value that Gate of All Nation provides is incredible, because right now we can't add any more war support. We've run out of influence, but this is essentially 90 plus 120 influence on top of that. So if you were to think about, in comparison to it, the Weiyang Palace, which is not, our UI is not popping up right now. So we've got +6 influence, and you think, okay, how many turns is it going to take for me to get the influence required to have +2 support on a war right now? The answer is it's quite some time, right? Like if we were to talk about just to go back here and have a look how much that is, we're talking about 90, and then the next one after this, I think it'll be 105. Sorry, not 120. So you're talking about quite a few turns. It's at least 15 turns for the first one, and then like another 17 or 18 turns for the next one as well. So it is a lot of influence that's coming in to this, and of course that's going to be dependent once again on how much influence you're generating. So a little bit more of a complex world wonder right there. And if I had to put this on a tier list, which I do, seeing as that's what we're doing right here, the Gate of All Nations is going to go in the A tier. I think this is an incredibly good world wonder. I think no matter who you're playing, no matter the civilization, it's always going to be valuable. It's a great deterrent if someone is looking to war you, that it's just one of those things that they're going to have to go, oh, do I really want to war against them? They've got the Gate of All Nations. That's a huge consideration to make. Okay, so next up, let's talk a little bit about the Colosseum. The Colosseum is, well, if you've seen One More Turns videos before, you will know that I'm a big fan of this world wonder. There are two primary components to this world wonder. The first is the yield, the culture, which we don't really care about, but we do definitely care about quarters. A quarters is what happens when you build two buildings next to each other on the same tile. So here is an example. We've got our two unique buildings, and they've created a quarters. Here as well, we've got the monument and the altar, which have created a quarters. And when we get the the Colosseum online, it provides +2 happiness to those quarters. And one of the things that you'll notice is that it's for every quarter in the settlement. So if we think about how many buildings that we can actually build through our settlement in the Age of Antiquity, and keep in mind this is ageless, so this will carry on throughout the game, but we'll focus on Antiquity for now. It's a total of 17 buildings, which means that you can have up to 8 quarters. So it's a bonus of 16 happiness potentially throughout the game, which is absolutely massive. It's incredible. It's very, very powerful. And because of that, I think that it's valuable no matter the civilization, no matter the lead up. It's good in every single circumstance, and I think that you should be looking to try and pick this up wherever you possibly can. I think there's a couple of circumstances where you wouldn't build it, but for most of the time, it is going to be heading into the S tier, just simply because it is such a versatile world wonder. There is no reason why you just shouldn't be building this whenever you get the opportunity. I mean, maybe if, like, as an example, like this is the one time that it might actually not work. We've got so many world wonders in our capital that we don't actually have a lot of quarters. Like, realistically, if we turn on the yields here, it might get a little bit disgusting. We've got 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters. I think that might be at 5 over here. It's not a lot of quarters. We're not that wealthy. We've got a lot of coins in our pocket, but they're only quarters, unfortunately. So yeah, we're going to throw that on the S tier. All right, so next one up, it's going to be Monk's Mound. So +3 food is the base yield. Now, keep in mind that Monk's Mound comes quite late into the game, at least for most civs. For the Mississippians, it comes a little bit earlier. In fact, a lot earlier. But this is very late into the game. So +3 food is not much, right? Like, if we were to look at this city right now, we're making 101 food. So 3 food at this point in the game is negligible. Our next citizen is 2,000 food. So it's maybe going to make a slight difference, but it's not a consideration here. The main focus is that it's +4 resource capacity in this settlement. And this is particularly strong, once again, if you're looking to try and hit the higher levels of resources, to try and hit those very important legacy paths. This could be the difference in being able to make it and not being able to make it. You might not have a lot of settlements. You might be squished in. The other leaders may have forward settled you. And because of that, you might be restricted on how many cities or how many towns you can have, because keep in mind that each town and each city is going to have its own slots, depending on how many markets or lighthouses it's got. And your towns will also have their slots as well. But if you want to try and work towards that, then Monk's Mound is going to be incredible for that. On top of that, it just allows you to have more resources in the same city. And, you know, maybe you want to stack things up. As an example, we're stacking up a whole bunch of production here, but maybe you want to stack up a whole bunch of salt to produce units faster. It just allows you to do that. It allows you a little bit of flexibility. And because of that, I think it is generally a very good world wonder. I don't think it's something that you want to prioritize, because it depends on your play style. You might play a bit more of a wide game, and because of that, I don't think it's S tier. I still do value the +4 resource capacity quite highly, but unfortunately, like other than that, I don't really think it's got a whole lot going for it. So when it comes to the tier list, Monk's Mound, you're going to go in the B tier. You're not that hot. Well, let's just put it that way. All right, so we've done all of these guys in here. I think now it's time to get onto a more advanced world wonder. So this is the Angkor Wat, and it's probably, it takes a bit of a while to understand exactly how this bad boy ticks. So the first component of this is the happiness, +3 happiness, which isn't that bad, except for the fact that when you consider where it comes in, which for everybody but the Khmer, or the Khmer rather, comes in at philosophy. The Khmer get it very, very early in their civics. They get it like the second civic, but you get it all the way up here. So 3 happiness at this point in the game, it's not really that big. If we look at how much happiness we've got 52. So it's not really going to change that much. But where the value of this world wonder comes in is the +1 specialist limit in the settlement. And what's so special about that is that it's ageless. That means that no matter what age you're going to be in, you're going to have that extra specialist. And this is also a world wonder that gets better as you get better. One of the things that you'll learn as you're playing Civilization 7 is that adjacency bonuses become incredibly important. And to modify your adjacency bonuses, you can use specialists. You can increase that. So as an example, if we take a look out over here, this is a garden and a market. Somewhere in here there is a market, somewhere there is a garden. I can see the market, I can see the garden. And you can see the yields that we're getting on this, 11 and 10. That's 11 food, 10 gold, which is a lot. This is the Age of Antiquity. We're on turn 80. We're not in the exploration age. This is still quite early. Now, there's a number of reasons that this is being modified right now, but it has a bonus to adjacency from all the water that's around it, as well as the world wonders that are here. And if we take our specialist and have a look exactly how much value he's going to give us, we're getting 3.5, 7, 10, 15 yields from this specialist. So this is an incredibly good specialist. The only trouble is that we've only got a limit of 1 specialist on each tile in the city. That's until we built the Angkor Wat, which gives you a limit of 2 specialists per tile, which means that you can now come along and grab those 15 yields once again. And that is why this World Wonder is incredibly powerful. In my mind, once again, the better that you get, the more you start to understand adjacencies, the better this World Wonder will get with you. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm sitting right now. If we take a look, just give me a sec here. How many? Let me squint just quickly. 319.2 hours. I think I was at about hour 230. When I worked out how specialists actually work and with their adjacencies. They modify the adjacencies of the buildings, and the buildings get their adjacencies from the surrounding area. So, or the surrounding features of the tiles. So that component was it took me a while. But look, I'll be honest with you, there is no way that this. Are we really putting 3 in the S tier already? I can't believe it. You know what? This cluster right here was a really strong cluster. I think. Yeah, I don't know what was happening. We were just building all the good world wonders down here. I can assure you right now, they're not all in the S tier. Let's continue moving on. Do we have any other S tier world wonders here? I don't think we do. No, we don't. Okay, good news. All right, next up, we've got the Oracle. So the Oracle's got a base of 2 culture, which isn't too bad, especially because it does come in quite early. It comes in at public life, which is nice and early. The only thing is, okay, it gives you, so its bonus is that it gives you a 10 culture bonus for every narrative event, every narrative reward that you get. Now, I want to provide a caveat, and that this is currently, at this point in time, there's still so much that we don't know about Civ 7. And one of those things is how to actually trigger narrative events. Every civilization, every leader has different narrative events throughout the game as you play them. And there's different triggers for it. As an example, when you're playing Hatshepsut and you build a Magi, let me just double check. Medjay. When you build a Medjay, there is a quest that will pop up for you where it's like, okay, do you want to build 5 Madjays, or do you want to go kill somebody? That sort of thing. And that's one of the bonuses that you would get culture for. So I would say that right now the Oracle is not strong because we don't know when those things are. We don't know how to trigger that. We don't know, oh look, I'm playing Hatshepsut, let me get to let me get to Code of Laws and make my merchant, and then all of a sudden I'll get my bonus so that I can get I'll get my narrative event so I can get my bonus culture from it. Doesn't work that way, at least not yet. It will work that way soon, but at the moment, at the current point in time, I don't place the Oracle that highly, just simply because we don't know yet exactly what the narrative events are, where they trigger, all those sorts of components. So we'll go ahead, we'll place it on the tier list. I'm sorry, Oracle. You were not the chosen one, but unfortunately you were chosen to be in the D tier today. It's a sad state of affairs for the Oracle. How far she has fallen, you know, the good old days of plus 25% great person points, eh? Anyway, let's move on to our next one. It's going to be Emile Bell. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct, but there are 2 components to this World Wonder. So the first component is that you gain a unique diplomatic endeavor called Ginseng Agreement. So if we take a look right now over at our good friend Catherine, and we see that we've got access to the Ginseng Agreement, which provides a bonus of food in the capital. So if Catherine accepts, we'll get 4 food. If she supports it, we'll get 6. Otherwise she'll reject it, and well, that's probably a good thing because we're going to be rejecting it as well. I don't value this very highly, and the reason why is quite simple. Food is not good. We've already talked about it. Food's great out in your towns, but it's not very good in your capital. And that's specifically what that is. Now, granted, there is another component. Well, not another component, but there is something else you could be doing. You could be doing a cultural exchange open markets. I'm looking for it. I can't see it. It's okay. We're not an expansionist leader. But expansionist leaders would have an ability to request or to give food in the towns. And that is far more valuable than the Ginseng Agreement. So that's the first component of the World Wonder. The second component of it is much more valuable. And that's +1 diplomatic attribute point. Now, the diplomat attribute tree has got 2 components to it, the left side and the right side. The left side is going to be giving you happiness, and the right side is going to be giving you influence. So it depends on how you want to play it, right? There's 2 different components. So if I'm playing like a Moria game, I'm probably going to be going down the happiness side. If I'm playing, you know, a Machiavelli game, I'm probably going to be going down the right side here. So it depends how you want to play it. But I think because of this bonus, it does actually, there is a bit of saving grace, but it's one of those things where it's going to depend on how you're playing, the leader that you're playing, And I don't think that there's a lot of value in this. And because of that, because I don't see a whole lot of value in that proposition, the only exception here is the fact that it's got that one diplomatic point. But for me, unfortunately, the Emile Bell is going to be going into the what do we throw it in? The E tier? No, sorry, the C tier. The C tier. So let's move on now to our next world wonder, and it's going to be Petra. It is a past time favorite. This world wonder has fallen from grace, though. I will say that they have absolutely massacred my boy. Petra is in a sad state right now. +1 gold. Plus what? Well, let's start with what it provides. +2 gold. Wonderful. We like gold. Keep in mind that gold is roughly like a 4-to-1 ratio compared to production. So for every 4 gold you've got equals 1 production. So this is giving you 0.25 production. Lovely. And then on top of that, it gives you the +1 gold and +1 production on desert tiles in this settlement. So don't get me wrong. Situationally, this could be amazing. Maybe you've got 36 desert tiles and they all get bonuses from Petra, and it's absolutely superb. The reality is there's not going to be a lot of spawns that have got it, and it's a very specific world wonder. I think that there are niche circumstances where you can look at your spawn and say, this is absolutely it. I'm going for it. I'm going for Petra. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen a lot. Even the spawns where you do actually get desert, a lot of them you're just going to be looking at it and saying, this isn't it. This isn't it, Chief. Because one of the things that happens is a spawn like this. So we started off with these insane navigable rivers, literally like back-to-back, 2 navigable rivers, both sides of the capital. When it came to how many actual tiles that we had that were desert, it was limited. We only had probably, I think, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 here. No, that's not even a desert tile there. And then you've also got these ones down here. So it wasn't a lot. And then further to that, you're building things on top of those desert tiles, such as world wonders, that may not actually pick that bonus up. Here, as an example, we've got Petra, which does not pick up the +1 gold or the +1 production that it gives itself on desert tiles. So it's these little things that contribute to me saying, look, I love Petra. I miss Petra. I hope that you're well, Petra. But unfortunately, when it comes to our tier list, you're not doing too well. We're going to have to put Petra a little bit lower on this tier list. Petra, you're going into the C tier. And that is just primarily because when it comes to Petra, it is a very... You know what? I've been a little bit harsh on Petra. We'll go B tier. Sorry, I've just moved it back into the B tier. There we go. I've put it back into the B tier. We've been a little bit harsh on Petra. I think, look, under the right circumstances, it's 100% a world wonder that you're going to be going for. But I want to reserve those higher tiers for world wonders that you're going to be going, okay, I'm going for this game. I'm going for this world wonder every single game. That's realistically what should be up towards the top. And Petra is way too situational to be saying, you know, this is an A tier world wonder. So that's Petra. That's this little cluster that have been done now. We've spoken about all of these. Now, next cluster we've got is up towards the north. Or we could go have a look at this little cluster down here to the south. Let's turn off our tile yields. So the first one is the Terracotta Army. So this is going to provide a +2 bonus to production, which is very nice, and grants a free army commander when built, plus 25% army experience. And I think this is a really nice world wonder. I think this is extra nice because the production, if we take a look where Terracotta Army actually comes in, it's quite early. It's at tactics. So this is still something that you can rush. And I think that there are civilizations that are probably going to be playing around this, especially civilizations that get bonuses towards free army commanders or army commanders in general. So as an example, if you've got Trung Trak, and you've taken like commander bonuses for her, I think that that's going to be a really, really strong way to play her, is going into the Terracotta Army, maybe delaying your attack a little bit before you do that. But other than that, I think that just having the extra army commander together with the +2 production is quite strong. These are decent bonuses. +2 production is going to be welcome in absolutely any city. It doesn't matter at all. You're always going to be able to look at that and say, yep, hey, Terracotta Army is available, +2 production. That ain't bad. You know, I could be building a lighthouse, or I could build the Terracotta Army, and you're probably going to take the lighthouse because it's got a sick adjacency. But the Terracotta Army is still decent. So look, when it comes to the tier list, I think that this is probably a little bit more middle of the pack, even though the production is definitely the component of it that I value the highest. But we're going to be putting it in the B tier here. It can join Petra. We'll allow it to join Petra in the middle. And we move on to the next one, which is... This one is a little bit more curious. So I've been having a chat behind the scenes with some people that are similarly minded to me and love to talk about this kind of stuff. So the Among Us Maui, it's got a base of 2 culture, which is Okay, it's not too bad. Now, keep in mind, it comes quite far along in the game. So if we have a look, it's also through the tech tree rather than through the civics tree. So the Among Us Maui comes through at navigation, which is typically out of the way, right? Like, I don't want to be going up here. And that's a huge component to this decision as well. This comes very late in the game. Normally I'm looking at like bronze working, maybe I'll come up to currency, then I'm going straight up to engineering into mathematics. I'm not really looking up towards navigation. So that's one component. But the second component is that it gives +1 culture and +1 food to fishing boats. And this can be dependent on your spawn. A huge component of this is dependent on your spawn. So if we take a look here, we have got ourselves quite a few fishing boats. In fact, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 fishing boats. So that is going to be 9 culture. That's going to be 9 food that we're getting from this World Wonder. And that's on top of the +2 culture that it's going to be providing. So that's pretty good already. But then on top of that, that's not just it. We've also got the +1 cultural attribute point. And cultural attribute points are arguably one of the better attribute points because the bonuses that they give are to specialists. And specialists are, in my mind, very, very special. So if you can get deep down in this pathway, things are going to be looking up for you. So I think that this World Wonder, initially you might look at it and say, look, +2 culture, it's not that good. Okay, it's kind of in an awkward spot on the tech tree. You don't really want to go to it. But it does provide a situational bonus, the culture and the food, that's decent. But that one cultural attribute point is really quite good. And even if this World Wonder only had +1 cultural attribute point, I would be rating it relatively high. The only caveat for this World Wonder as well is that its placement is terrible. Must be on grassland or tropical and adjacent to the coast. So there is a very specific place that you can place that. You can't put it on plains. You can't put it on tundra. You can't put it on a river. You can't put it on a navigable river. It has to be on coast. So that's essentially the conditions for it. It's not an easy World Wonder to place. But look, when it comes to placing it on the tier list, I think that this one is a pretty easy one for us. I've got it listed here under A, even though I think it starts with a H, just because I call it the Among Us Maui. It's going to be going in the A tier. And let's continue moving on now to our next World Wonder up the line. Who have we got? We've got the Mausoleum of Theodoric. So this one comes a little bit later in the tech tree, slightly after Terracotta Army. It provides an extra +1 production over Terracotta Army, but I think this one is a little bit more. This one is a little bit more niche, and that's because it's very much dependent on attacking. It's +100% yields and HP from pillaging. So you have to be on the offense for this World Wonder to work. And that would mean that you want to go to war. That means you want to be thinking about war. Now, keep in mind, what's powerful about this is that it lasts the entire game. So it means that if ever you go to war throughout the game and you're in someone else's territory and you're going to be pillaging them, that this is going to be giving you benefits because this is an ageless World Wonder. All World Wonders are ageless. So that is a huge component to it. Because it could be the difference between a unit living and a unit dying. It could be the difference between you capturing a city and not capturing a city. And once the city flips, it becomes a lot easier to defend it. So I look at this World Wonder and I think, okay, there is a good component to this that's immediate, and that's the +3 production. Even though if we look at the World Wonder itself, it actually does take quite a bit of production to build it. I don't know whether it says it. I think it's somewhere in the region of about 300 to 400 production to build it. But the +3 production is always going to be something that is welcome. And then finally, the last component is the military or the militaristic attribute point. So the militaristic attribute point is going to allow you to get down the tree. So you can already see we've already got that +3 war support, which we've talked about previously with the Gate of All Nations and how powerful that is. So now it's just getting, we're stacking onto that already. So there's a number of factors here that I think make this a really good World Wonder. However, the only trouble is that it's very specific to what you want to do. Because if you want to go and attack somebody, then it makes sense. If you want to defend, if you're planning to play an economic game where you're just going to look and try and play passive, then it doesn't really make as much sense. And obviously things change later on in the game, but it can still be good. The only trouble that you're going to have is that this comes at a time where it is a hotly contested World Wonder, a hotly contested piece of production. Right now you've just essentially finished getting all your settlers out, you're building your monuments, you've finished your library, you're looking to get your barracks down, and now it's like, okay, well, do I build my barracks in 2 turns, or do I build the Mausoleum of Theodoric in 10 turns? And it's like, I think I'll just take the barracks. It's going to give me an extra 3 production anyway. So you just take that and you just kind of move on and you forget about this. So I think that it can be difficult to justify this in the moment, but I think once you've got it though, it's definitely a World Wonder that is worthwhile having. So we'll go ahead and we'll throw this one in the B tier. Where are you? You're down over here. We'll throw it in the B tier, just simply because of the fact that it's a little bit more niche to go into the A tier, but it's still, the bonuses that it's got are generally very good bonuses. So let's move on now to our next world wonder. Where else have we got? It's going to be the Colossus. So the Colossus is similar to Monk's Mound in that it provides a bonus resource capacity. It also provides +3 gold, which isn't very valuable, especially because it's a world wonder, right? If it provided +10 gold, then maybe you'd be like, okay, this is actually pretty good. That would be on par with 3 production, whereas 3 gold is really not that much. Now, of course, that gold could potentially be modified by resources such as Jade. So we're going from 3 up to 3.45 or 3.7 gold, whatever that amount is. I'm just trying to just making sure that my maths it doesn't. But the point is that it provides those 2 bonuses, but the real kicker here is just going to be that economic attribute point. The economic attribute point is really what sets this apart from Monk's Mound. For Monk's Mound, it's just the resource capacity. It's negligible yields, and it's the same here for the Colossus, negligible yields, just the resource capacity, but the economic attribute point is where we come in once again. So the economic attribute point is where you're going to be getting your strength. Now, the economic attribute point is going to be dependent on your playstyle and how much you value that. Is it going to be worthwhile for you to go down that road? Maybe you're playing a more economic focused leader, and then it could be. But I think overall, the Colossus, as a world wonder, it can be great if you're running a tall empire, the same way that Monk's Mound can be great if you're running a tall empire and you really need to get that last little slot in. But other than that, I don't think it provides a whole lot of value. And even though there are games where I do find myself going for them, it's typically when I've got an empire that is a taller empire. So that means that I've got less cities, I've got more focus on just growing big. And those games are starting to be less and less common. And because of that, I'm starting to value the Colossus less and less. So when it comes to the tier list, unfortunately for the Colossus, not as strong as it used to be. You remember the good old day? Oh, geez, now we're putting everything in the B tier. But it's going to be going into the B tier as well with the rest of the gang. Because even though that economic point is nice, it's not something that is going to be really game-changing in the sense. It definitely helps you get down there, but yeah, overall, not on my mind. All right, let's move on. We've got the pyramids next. Pyramids. This is a very niche world wonder. +1 gold and +1 production on minor and navigable rivers. So we've got absolutely amazing river systems here. This is probably the best case scenario you'll ever see for the pyramids. It is very specific to the situation that you spawn in. It's not a world wonder that you're going to see often. Not on top of needing to be placed on a desert, it also needs to be placed adjacent to the navigable river. So there's 2 components there. Makes it very difficult to place this world wonder down. And then the bonuses that it's giving, look, don't get me wrong, +1 production on your river tiles and your navigable river tiles is very nice. But the main component here is that you're not going to have a lot of games where you've got navigable rivers that look like this. To have navigable rivers like this is a rarity. Typically, you're going to be having 3, maybe 4 tiles. So now you're looking at this and saying, okay, is it really worth +3 gold, +3 production, +4 gold, +4 production? A lot of the games that you play, it's just not going to be worth it. And, you know, compared to previous games where the pyramids was, it just felt like it was an S tier world wonder, now it's definitely dropped off a bit. I don't think there's any way that we could really look to put this higher than the C tier, unfortunately. I love them in Civ 6, but unfortunately, in Civ 7, things have gotten bad for the pyramids. Okay, next up, we'll start with our cluster towards the north. Do we start from the top and work our way down, or do we? No, we'll work our way up. All right, first up, we're going to start with the Hanging Gardens. Hanging Gardens comes quite early on in the tech tree. It's available at Irrigation, which makes it very, very easy to grab. It's also at a bit of an awkward point, similar to the Great Stele, in that it comes right as your production is really kicking into gear and you're looking to get all of your settlers out, all of your big, your key infrastructure pieces. So it's going to be contesting that. But one of the things I absolutely love about this world wonder is not the +1 food on farms in the settlement. I think that's absolutely useless. It's not useless. +1 food on farms is cool. I like the look of the yield, but unfortunately it doesn't really do a whole lot. What is incredibly good though is the +10% growth rate in all cities. So it's not just this city, it's literally every city. And remember that this is ageless. This is across your empire. So when you're in the modern era or the modern age and you've got 10 cities, this is 10% growth to all of those It's incredibly powerful. And on top of that, you get the expansionist point. And one of the things that's very common, I know in my games, I run this a lot, the expansionist attribute point is probably one of the best attribute points. At least the very first one is by far the best initial attribute point that you can get. Plus 25 production towards training settlers. It just means in the early game, your tempo is going to be so much faster. And the good news is, it's not normally the first point that's coming through from the Hanging Gardens. Normally the first point is coming through from your leader mementos. You'll be bringing them with you into the game. Now here we're using False Beard as well as something I'm not going to even try and pronounce, but normally you would have the plus 25% production. It's incredibly powerful and it gets you the first point of that tree, whereas the Hanging Gardens gets you the second point of the tree, which is an additional 10% growth rate. So now you've got 20% growth rate in the city. And when you understand how growth works and that it's not actually an increase in food, it's a reduction in cost of your next population, you'll realize just how good that is. To be not essentially a plus 20% growth rate wonder in all cities is incredible. And because of that, I think it's good no matter the empire. I think that it's wonderful no matter the civilization, no matter the leader. It's always going to make sense to have. It's very easy to put down as well. You're typically going to have rivers through the games that you play available to you. And because it's pretty much... You can build it in essentially any single game, any civ, any leader. The only downside to this World Wonder is the timing that it comes. And look, I'm sure you could probably say this about all World Wonders, but it comes at a very awkward timing. And that's right as you're pushing out your settlers and you're looking to get your library down or your monument down, your barracks down, and you're trying to get all that infrastructure down. You need to make the decision. Am I going to build the Hanging Gardens or am I going to get that important infrastructure? And often the decision is, I don't have enough production to justify going for the Hanging Gardens right now. And so that's really the only takeaway from it. But I guess realistically, you could probably make that argument for any of the World Wonders. But look, overall, I'm a big fan of this World Wonder. It's going to go into the A tier, even though as I've said, it definitely is it's sitting on par with the Gate of All Nations. It is, I'm a big fan of this World Wonder. Okay, next up, let's talk about the Sanchi Stupa. So the Sanchi Stupa is a very situational World Wonder. It depends on the leader that you're playing, I think is the biggest component of this in the civ that you're playing. So plus 2 happiness is the base yield. And keep in mind, this comes on quite far through the tech tree. So normally, at least from what I've seen, what we're doing is we're going into mysticism, into discipline, and then we're coming up the sides, grabbing the settlement limits for these, and then we'll come down the middle, and then we can always grab the mastery for citizenship. So it comes relatively late in the game. There's no reason why you couldn't prioritize it if you wanted to. Maybe if you're playing Ashoka or you're playing the Moira, then 100% you could do it. But it provides a plus 2 base of happiness, which is quite low. But then it provides plus 1 culture for every excess 5 happiness in the settlement. So as an example, in this settlement right now, we've got an excess of 24. So that means that the Sanchi Stupa is providing about 4 to 5 excess happiness. Now, if you're playing as Ashoka and you're maxing your happiness, there's no reason why this couldn't be plus 20 culture, plus 30 culture, plus 40 culture, and obviously that scales throughout the game, the more happy that you get. So this can be an incredibly powerful World Wonder. However, it is very niche. It's one of those things where it's like, you would only take this under circumstances where you could really maximize your happiness. And because of that, it's hard for me to justify putting that into those upper tiers. The Sanchi Stupa is an amazing World Wonder if things are happy and you're already happy, and you're just going to it's going to produce even more and more culture, and it's one of those ways that you can actually generate a lot of culture, but the only trouble is it's not consistent. And that's the way that I'm going to have to fault it here. And unfortunately, with all of the other World Wonders that are in the B tier, it goes along to join them in there. Okay, next up is Nalanda. Nalanda is another interesting one. I would say that this is very, very similar. It's similar almost 100% to the Among Us Maui, in that the plus 3 science is nice at any point in the game. We're never going to complain about plus 3 science. You also get a codex, so it's technically 5 science, and it's progression towards your win condition. So if we take a look here, it's an extra codex towards your win condition. But on top of that, it's also the science attribute points. You also get 2 codex slots, but I mean, at this point in the game, you've typically got quite a lot of codex slots. Like, it doesn't really make a huge difference to have those. But you've also got the +1 scientific attribute point, and that's the real kicker here. I think that's where the real strength of this World Wonder comes from. It's that attribute point. So if we take a look at exactly what that could unlock you. So here, as an example, we're getting +1 science per age on a palace and city halls. So if you've got 8 settlements, +8 science, which is decent. On top of that, your second component is +15% production towards buildings, which is incredible. You're never gonna give that up. That is lovely. But then from there, you can look to bonuses like +1 science on each quarter, which is very, very powerful. The longer the game goes, the better that gets. So it allows you to get further down the ladder, allows you to get that point. And because of that, I value it very highly in that regard. If I was going to, well, we're going to be putting this on a tier list, but if I was going to be faulting this World Wonder, and it seems like a weird thing to fault it on, it's that it must be placed on plains. And I've noticed with a lot of spawns that I get that there's just no plains. It's kind of strange. Like, I'll go from grassland into desert, and there's no like plains in between them, not even like a line of plains or anything like that. Or sometimes like I'll go from tropical straight into grassland, which kind of makes sense. But I guess the point is that like plains, there's not a lot of plains around. And I guess you could say that about everything, right? Like, Terracotta Army needs to be placed on grassland. Okay, so it's not specific to this World Wonder. It's just one of the things that I've noticed. It's like sometimes I'll be like, okay, I could go Nalanda right now, and then I'll check and I'll be like, oh, I've got nowhere to place it because I don't have any planes. And you look around and there's just no planes. So that's essentially it. But look, other than that, I think it's I think it's pretty damn good. So we're gonna go ahead. We'll throw it in the A tier, up there with our boy the Among Us Maui. Okay, next up we have got the Pyramid of the Sun. I wonder where this one's gonna go. Well, let's find out. +3 culture. That is a very nice bonus. We'll take that at any point in the game. Now, keep in mind the Pyramid of the Sun does come very late. It's actually in the technology tree. It's all the way down here at mathematics. So it's one of the last technologies. Well, it's one of the last technologies on the tech tree, but you actually unlock before you unlock ironworking, military training, navigation. Typically, you're coming up here and grabbing this before you will go into these other tech trees. The Pyramid of the Sun, the real power is the +2 culture on quarters. As we talked earlier about the Colossus, the fact that you get +2 happiness on quarters is incredible because you can have up to 8 quarters. Technically, you can have up to 9 quarters with your bonus or your civilization quarters if you've got access to them. There's 5 that have got access to unique quarters, and that is incredible. Right, that is a huge amount of culture. If we look here, we're at 187, and a large part of that is going to be from the Temple of the Sun. We are talking about a potential of like 20 plus culture, and what's incredible about this World Wonder is that that's guaranteed. As long as you're meeting all the criteria, as long as you understand how adjacencies work, and you understand that quarters are important, and you're stacking them all around your city center, and you're branching them out towards where they get adjacency bonuses, the same way that we've got the market and the garden down here. As long as you're taking advantage of that, the the Pyramid of the Sun will absolutely look after you. And it is because of that there is no doubt in my mind that this bad boy is heading exactly where it belongs in the S tier. It is a wonderful World Wonder, as the name would tell you. And now I guess we can talk about our final 2 World Wonders for today. So we've got Dur-Sharrukin and we've got Mundo Perdido. So we've saved these ones, the non-English ones, up until last. So Dur-Sharrukin, there are 2 components to this one. The first one is it acts as a fortified district that must be conquered. So that means that when the enemy comes to conquer you, you've got 3 fortified districts, 1, 2, 3, and that will act as another fortified district that needs to be conquered. Now, one of the components for this World Wonder is that it must be adjacent to a district, but it doesn't have to be adjacent to a fortified district. So there's nothing that stops you from having the Dur-Sharrukin over here. And it can be really frustrating to try and take a city that's got the Dur-Sharrukin all the way over here, because it allows you to basically have a city that could be in a bad spot and to allow it to be very difficult to take. And that can be incredibly punishing for your opponent because they might think, oh, this is easy. It's on the wrong side of the river. You know, like if we've got a big navigable river right here and their empire is all to the south and they put one city right here. And now it's like, okay, well, we'll sweep in and we'll just clean them out from 3 sides. But if they've got the Dur-Sharrukin down here and they've connected a key in between here, now you've got to take this tile. And, you know, they could make it worse. They could make it this tile right here. So there's that component that really makes it quite strategic. But I think that it is a generally, that component of it is quite niche. Where it does actually have a bit of strength is the +3 combat strength to fortified districts in all settlements that it gives. So once again, this is a great world wonder for defenders. We talked about good world wonders for attackers, so the Mausoleum of Theodoric is a great world wonder for attackers. For defenders, Dur-Sharrukin is great. And I'm a big fan of this world wonder. The only issue that I've got with it is that it doesn't really offer you anything unless you go to war. It's more one of those deterrents, right? You remember back in Civ 5 when someone would build the Great Wall and you would just be like, I'm not attacking that guy. It's the same thing with Dur-Sharrukin. The +3 combat strength is just going to combo very well with the existing bonuses that you get on your fortified districts. And because of that, I think that this is something that you can pretty much always build, but it's not something that necessarily needs to always... How do I say it? It's not something that you want to beeline towards, but it's something, if it's there, you're like, it's nice. So we'll throw it in the C tier with everything else. And then finally, we've got Mundo Perdido, which is... Now, this one's a hard one. I've just put my legs up because when I talk about the Mundo Perdido, this is a world wonder that is... Let me explain. The Mundo Perdido needs to be on tropical. That's the first component of it. So it's already quite niche in what we're looking at. But the bonuses that it actually gives are incredible. +1 happiness and science on tropical terrain in the settlement. So as an example, if you're in the middle of the forest, like let's say you've got a settlement right here, and you're working this flat tropical tile that's vegetated, you've got a lumber camp on it, it's already got +1 science. And because it's vegetated, you're going to put a lumber camp on it, or a sawmill, a woodcutter on it, and the woodcutter is going to provide that production, which you want. Production is incredible, so we want woodcutters. I don't think we've got any in here. We had a very unfavorable start, though. No, I take it back. This was a beautiful start. But I guess what I want to emphasize is that this world wonder, when it hits very hard. This is incredible. Now, science is not easy to come by in Civ 7, and the fact that Mundo Perdido provides it to you in absolute spades is crazy. Like, I have put Mundo Perdido down before, and I've had like a +12 science. And that's when I've been at like 60 science. And all of a sudden I'm getting +12. That is insanity. The only trouble is that it's limited to tropical. So I would say under all circumstances, if you've ever got a city that's tropical and you're not playing a warmongering Chung track, it's a great idea to think about the Mundo Perdido. And because of how strong it is, despite it being niche and only restricted to civilizations that spawn in that biome, it is incredibly powerful for what it offers you. So we're going to have to stick it into the A tier, and that rounds us out for our Wonder tier list. Ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be a whole bunch more tier lists that are going to be coming. We're going to be doing the tier lists for leaders, the tier lists for civilizations, tier lists for, I don't know, whatever you got. I'm thinking, okay, well, I want to do a Pantheon tier list. Like, look, just give me a sec. Just bear with me here, okay? If we look at the Pantheons, we could 100% do a tier list on these. I already know this one's going to be S tier. When it comes to resources, so let's just start off with an S tier resource. Cotton. I know that's going to be S tier, but I'm look at all these resources. You know, which ones should we prioritize early? Which ones shouldn't we? I can 100% see value in that and understanding that, because that is a huge component to the early game, being able to identify which resources I should be going for right now versus which ones I should be making sure I secure, but not necessarily be improving at this point in time. I think that there's we got a lot of tier lists that are about to be coming out, so I hope you're ready for them. I hope you're looking forward to it. Once again, if you're interested in talking about Civ 7 or if you're interested in leveling up your leader, make sure you check out the Discord. It's available down in the description. The link is there. And other than that, if you've got any constructive feedback, make sure you leave it in the comments. And if you're looking forward to more Civ 7 content, then, well, you know what to do. Make sure you hit that like, or that subscribe button, rather, and remember that there's always time for one more turn.